Hi there, I'm Marius, and today we are taking a look at server logic in Power Pages, which is a new capability that Microsoft added that lets you natively call bound custom APIs and even with securing them with security roles. Server logics are found in the Setup menu, and then here under Integrations you will find server logic, and here's also the reminder that this is currently a preview feature. For a new server logic, you only need to enter the name, but I suggest also adding the display name because this is used for sorting here, because that is used for sorting here by default, and if you have a lot of server logics, that certainly makes things easier. Also, you can assign roles. I've assigned authenticated users to both server logics, which blocks anonymous access. With edit, you only get back into this screen when you really want to edit the content of the server logic. Use edit code here. When you create a server logic, Microsoft provides you with a big template with some explanations up here, and then you see they have implemented all post, put, get, patch, and delete. And I've only changed the get method here. As stated, the goal of this video is to call a bound custom API, and this is done with server, connector, Dataverse, invoke custom API, and then you use get for functions or post for actions. And then here I'm binding to the contact. I use the server user object here so that I don't have to pass in the contact ID, and thus this allows any manipulations that might happen in the JavaScript in the browser of the calling user. After that, we have the Microsoft Dynamics CRM prefix, and then really the name of my custom API. And then finally, here in the end, you would have other parameters. This function does not have any additional parameters. We will probably explore that when we get into unbound custom APIs. Then one thing with this Dataverse connector, right now the response is just a string. So I first need to pass this string. Then the object coming out of it has a body, and we will pass that again to then get the actual response that MWO greeter bound returns, which is a text property. And we're just saving this here and then passing this out in this response object. To call the server logic, I have here created a function whoami server logic, and this calls shell.ajax safepost, and then in this case I've implemented the get function, so we have type get. Then this URL starts with underscore API / server logics, and then the name I gave the server logic. Application content is always application JSON, and then if this has success, I call the onSuccess function, which parses the data parameter from the result, and this then takes the text property from here to display it in a paragraph. This paragraph is defined in the web page copy, so you see it down here. And you see up here in the whoami really button, I am calling the whoami server logic function. So let's take a look what the final result is. Here's the whoami really button. And you see the response, you are Marius Wodka. Let's do that again with the DevTools opened. We have called here the base URL / API server logics greeter bound. See, there is no body or query parameters that we have passed additionally. And in the response, you see here a server logic name, a success request ID, and this data parameter. And in here we find the text we just wrote, and this is the response from the custom API, you are Marius Wodke. You might have noticed that I've used the server logger log function here a lot. And that is, for example, because I didn't know beforehand that I need to pass all of the response twice. That was basically by using this line I found out that this is just a raw string that needs to be passed. And usually you can find out using the Microsoft Power Pages browser extension, which is only available for Microsoft Edge. And then in here you see traces from the website. And usually when I click the Who Am I Really, it should display all the log statements that I've added. However, you see down here there is a problem reading save Ajax somehow. I've looked into this, what this actually does, and if you are having the same problem as me, probably it will be fixed by the time you see this video, but maybe you still have this, or you are using Chrome and don't want to switch to Edge just because of this one browser plugin. You can find in the response headers header XMS user trace, and some functions apparently just have this header right here that just has the trace inside. But if you have a trace ID, you can copy this and paste it to a URL. So you see here, this is the base URL _services portal user trace get, and then you have an ID parameter, and I just pasted in the ID here. So and then you see all the messages. They are of course not nearly as beautiful as with the browser extension, but if we scroll a bit, you can see here the message get called, and then here the next trace message user and the ID. And then finally down here, this is what I've used to determine how this Dataverse action works. You see the full response from the custom API. And so we see the outer object, and in here the body, which starts right here and ends down here. And inside that body, you have then the text property, you are Marius Rothke, which I passed out and returned. Should this endpoint be closed, or you are missing the XMS user trace header, head over into the Power Pages Management app and make sure that you have a site setting called user trace/debug set to true. For private websites, like my development page here, this should be automatically set to true, since there are valid concerns that these trace messages could leak information to an attacker. This feature is currently only documented for bound custom APIs, but once Microsoft adds the unbound custom APIs as well, this will certainly be the point where I will retire my custom Power Pages Actions solution, because let's face it, we all love a native solution that is supported by Microsoft, and the amount of code we need is actually quite reasonable. For this sample, we have 2 working lines of code, one for calling the custom API and one for post-processing the output with the parsing to get a nice return object. Hopefully I'll catch you soon with another video when bound custom APIs are working with server logics. See you in the next video.